What's up guys, welcome to the 12th lesson of the essential tools in Photoshop. In this lesson we're going to talk about the healing brushes. We're going to talk about the spot healing brush and the normal healing brush. We're going to be able to see the difference between these two and what they actually do and what is the difference in between these two brushes and the clone stamp tool. Let's jump on Photoshop and here's where we can start. Let's talk about the spot healing brush. The spot healing brush tool is a fantastic tool to remove marks and blemishes within an image in a very quick and easy way. So Photoshop does most of the job basically. On the top here we've got different type of options. I'm working on a new layer at the moment. Since this layer is empty, what is important, we need to keep thick the sample all layers. In this way we're gonna be able to copy elements from the underneath layer, so the background layer, otherwise it won't work. Here we got some instruction similar to the brush tools. The mode is quite interesting, is different type of mode to blend within different image and different layers. The type is quite interesting because we've got content aware, create texture or proximity match. The texture one gives you the opportunity to copy just texture from an element. So the proximity match works in the way that when we are clicking to remove some spots or blemish, what it does, it tends to match with the area that is quite close to that area that we are trying to cover. So that's why it works around these specific areas. When we're using the content aware instead, we are sampling elements from more of a wide range area within the image. Also, elements quite important about the content aware is that when we're using it, Photoshop does most of the job, so it automatically tends to fix this little spot. It's great when you literally have a spot, that's why spot healing brush tool. So if we're trying to copy instead the big areas, then it might be a little bit more tricky to do with this one. Now let's use texture. Let's see if we can remove this little element from here. If we zoom in, we can see that the texture can look a little bit more crispy and pixelate, so it doesn't really give me a great result. Let's see if content aware works a bit better. Tiny bit better result. So it tends to add more information, so it's not just texture but it's also color. Proximity, let's have a look if it works slightly bit better for this type of situation. It should be, since we are basically copying from areas that are around the area that we are copying now from. So in between, when you work with skin, you can use content aware and proximity match. When we work mainly with texture, we can use maybe different type of tool. So for this one is a great tool to remove quick spots or even sometimes flyaways. It works quite nice. Now what we've got is the healing brush tool. It's slightly bit different. We got mode, the source tend to keep over its own sample because otherwise pattern is a different type of source. Aligned, we know what exactly it does, similar to the clone stamp tool. Use the legacy is an option that gives you the opportunity to use the healing brush with the same algorithm of the Photoshop from the 2014 and earlier, because Photoshop changed a little bit the algorithm, so the characteristic of this tool changed a slightly bit. You've got sampling from current layer, current and below, and all layers. Right now I can't use it because I'm working on a blank layer. And then you've got the diffusion, which is more of a strength of the healing brush. Tends to keep it more in the middle, like 4, which is kind of a bit more medium. It works in the same way of the clone stamp tool. What it does, it copies just the texture. So when you see that I'm copying right now the hair, we are not copying everything, but we're just taking the texture and losing colors elements. So it's perfect to remove blemish in a little bit more of a specific and delicate way than the spot healing brush. So spot healing brush, you leave everything on Photoshop hands, Now instead we're deciding from where we want to sample elements. So it's most of the time used for cleaning up the skin tone. It's most of the time used to clean up the skin from any imperfections. Let's say if I want to remove some hair, we might gonna find some difficulties because it's just working on the texture and it can leave you a little bit of a color shadow that we don't want because it won't replace that. So this is all about the healing brushes that we've got within Photoshop. Spot healing brush, a little bit more automatic. The healing brush instead is slightly bit more precise, where we can decide from where we want to clone elements of texture, and really used most of the time for clean up the skin. So great information about the healing brush tool, guys. Hope that you enjoyed it.